Here are 7 signs your thyroid is running slow, and most doctors completely miss them. Number 1, the outer third of your eyebrows is disappearing. Thyroid hormones literally power your hair follicles, and one of the very first places you'll notice hair loss is right here on the outer edges. Let's move to number 2, high cholesterol. Think about how many people have high cholesterol and are immediately put on medication without ever realizing it could actually be a thyroid issue. If you have a thyroid problem, your entire system runs slowly. Many people find that once they fix their thyroid, their cholesterol naturally goes back to normal. All right, the next sign is waking up with a puffy face. This happens because a thyroid issue traps water within the proteins underneath your skin. Now, the next 2 signs are the ones doctors almost never connect to the thyroid. Number 4, carpal tunnel syndrome. When your body becomes swollen and holds fluid in different tissues, it puts extra pressure on the tissues around the median nerve in your wrist. That triggers carpal tunnel syndrome, which is actually a classic hypothyroid symptom. And just so you know, I'm going to show you exactly what I recommend to fix a slow thyroid. I'm getting to that in just a moment, but let me cover the rest of these signs first. Number 5, depression or anxiety. Thyroid hormones are directly responsible for controlling energy production inside your brain cells. So when your thyroid slows down, you tend to feel more depressed or anxious. In fact, over 50% of people with a slow thyroid develop depression as their primary symptom. You could take all the antidepressants in the world, but they won't fix the root problem because they're treating the wrong thing. Think of yourself as a fish living in a toxic environment. Welcome to planet Earth, where almost everything around us is engineered for dependency or addiction, from the screens we watch to the food we eat. That's why I developed a program that works in the exact opposite way. It focuses on your environment, the water in the tank, rather than just the fish. If we can change your environment to make good habits easier and bad habits harder, you won't have to rely so heavily on willpower and discipline. Focusing on the environment first allows you to address the real issue. Click the link down below, take the quiz, and find out the exact environmental changes that will make a massive difference in your health. All right, number 6, headaches or migraines. A slow thyroid can lock up your muscles, especially in the back of your neck, creating tension headaches and even full-blown migraines. And number 7, feeling cold. I want to talk about a simple temperature test you can easily do in the morning to rule out a slow thyroid. Back when I was in practice, a 42-year-old female patient came to see me. She suffered from high cholesterol and carpal tunnel syndrome, and she had been on antidepressants for 2 years. The major clue was that she was not only freezing cold all the time, but she also kept gaining weight no matter what she did. She suspected a thyroid issue, so she went to her doctor. The doctor tested her thyroid, declared it was normal, decided it must be something else, and wrote her another prescription, which she chose not to take. So I did something that many doctors aren't really aware of. I had her check her body temperature, not in her mouth, but in her armpit, every morning for 3 days. When she returned and showed me her numbers, I averaged them out to 96.4 degrees. Now, a normal baseline temperature should be 98.6. Hers was down at 96.4. To try this, all you need is a basic thermometer. They cost about $3. Hold the thermometer under your armpit for 10 minutes during each test. If your temperature consistently falls below 97.8 degrees Fahrenheit or 36.6 degrees Celsius, you should suspect a slow thyroid. One of the primary ways doctors diagnose thyroid issues is through a hormone test called TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone. This test measures what your pituitary gland is telling your thyroid to do. You can think of TSH as the thermostat on your wall, while the actual furnace down in the basement is your thyroid controlling the real temperature. Studies show that 48.5% of people tested for subclinical hypothyroidism were diagnosed incorrectly. Researchers also found that 31.2% of people diagnosed with slightly elevated thyroid hormones were actually completely normal. I'll tell you right now, out of all the things you can do to a patient, misdiagnosing them is the absolute worst because they end up taking prescribed medication they don't even need. Typically, normal TSH levels fall between 0.5 and 4.5. However, if you're over 60, levels can naturally run higher. If you're female, they can run higher. If you're white compared to black, levels can be slightly higher as well. A lot of people ask me which supplements I recommend. Now, of course, I am biased toward my own high-quality supplement line, but if you go to Amazon and search for Dr. Berg supplements, you'll find more details there. So now the question is, what should you actually do if you have a slow thyroid? Let's dive into that next. If you're going to get your thyroid tested, make sure you request a complete thyroid panel. Yes, checking TSH is fine, but don't rely on that number alone. You also need to look at free T4 and free T3. By the way, T4 is the inactive thyroid hormone, while T3 is the active form. T4 has to be converted into T3, and many people simply struggle with that conversion process. Over 90% of the time, a hypothyroid condition involves thyroid antibodies. These are immune cells that actively attack your own thyroid gland. Over 90% of the time, these antibodies will show up on a full panel. If they do show up, you have Hashimoto's. If you don't have these antibodies and simply have standard hypothyroidism, your protocol is going to look a little different. Let's start with the most common scenario, Hashimoto's. The top trace mineral I highly recommend is selenium. Selenium has been shown to decrease thyroid antibodies and actively assist in converting T4 to T3. I recommend taking 200 micrograms per day. I also recommend vitamin D3, at least 30,000 IU per day. Why? Because vitamin D is one of the most powerful tools available for supporting autoimmune conditions. The protocol I recommend comes from Dr. Coimbra, who uses high doses of vitamin D3. There are specific doctors you can work with both inside and outside the US to help monitor your levels, and I'll leave that information linked down below. Naturally, when taking high-dose vitamin D, you'll also want to take its essential cofactors, zinc, vitamin K2, and magnesium. As a side note, this combination dramatically cools down inflammation in the thyroid because that autoimmune reaction creates massive amounts of swelling. Completely removing gluten from your diet is super important here. Additionally, to lower inflammation even further, you'll want to practice intermittent fasting. Now let's switch gears. Suppose you tested negative for antibodies and simply have a standard hypothyroid case. In that situation, you still definitely need selenium because selenium plays a vital role in the conversion process far beyond just reducing antibodies. You'll also want to consider iodine, but be careful not to take too much, as excessive iodine can aggravate the condition. You should get an iodine test done first, because many people with hypothyroidism don't actually need extra iodine. It isn't always the reason the thyroid becomes sluggish. Zinc is super important for restoring normal thyroid function, as it's a vital trace mineral. Magnesium acts as another key cofactor supporting your thyroid. Furthermore, your liver must be healthy for T4 to properly convert into active T3. When people have had their gallbladder removed, it can create a bile deficiency, which directly impairs that conversion process. Taking bile salts at the end of a meal can greatly assist your body with conversion. In other words, there are several different pieces of this puzzle you might need to address. Here is another major piece. High stress levels can drag thyroid function down. Elevated estrogen can also inhibit your thyroid, whether that's from hormone replacement therapy, birth control pills, or consuming heavy amounts of soy products. Additionally, if your insulin is constantly elevated due to eating too many carbs, that will suppress thyroid activity as well. So you'll want to cut those right down. Anyway, I wanted to put together this quick video to give you the foundational basics on identifying a thyroid problem. If you'd like even more details on optimizing your thyroid, I created an in-depth video right over here. Check it out.